It appears that Uber and Lyft drivers are fed up with their wages and are demanding at Seattle City Hall to have them raised. Hello everyone, this is Kevin the Apptrepreneur, and let's get right into this one because the protests and strikes are continuing like I said they would. In fact, I think it hasn't been more than a week since I have talked about a protest or strike. There's one or two every single week. This one happens to be at Seattle City Hall, which, by the way, for everyone who wants to do future strikes and stuff, you need to include places like Seattle City Hall in your protest. It's great that you're protesting at LAX. It is great that you're protesting at the Chicago Airline Airport. It's great that you're protesting anywhere. You want to make the government halls, the capitals, you want to make all these places targets for you to protest. They need to be part of the conversation because this is where your laws get written. This is where your policy is made. This is where it is discussed. They need to see it outside their own backyard to know that it is a thing and know that it is going to be a very important issue in the upcoming election. Let's continue though. A cavern of Uber and Lyft drivers arrived at the steps of Seattle Hall on Thursday afternoon to demand better wages and treatment from the ride-hailing companies. The rolling demonstration comes 3 weeks after drivers around the world held protests timed with Uber's initial public offering. In both cases, the drivers involved said they are frustrated by the company's take rates and method of calculating rates. The drivers are also asking for a fair process to appeal the activations on the apps. It also comes on the same day Uber posted its first quarterly earnings report as a public company, revealing revenue of $3.1 billion and losses of $1 billion for the first quarter of 2019. Yeah, now that you mention it, GeekWire, why weren't there protests scheduled for the day of the first earnings report? Why not? I think we knew that fairly well in advance. Why weren't we protesting that? I guess we kind of knew that they were going to be hanging themselves with another $1 billion loss. I mean, they lose so much money and they're not shy about it. But why weren't we there? Why weren't we there to kind of hammer home like, hey, this company's losing $1 billion, and by the way, their workers are still out here threatening to quit? I don't know. That seemed like that should have been a no-brainer. I don't know why we didn't do that. But not all drivers are fed up with Uber and Lyft. Some claim that the protesters are just a vocal minority advocating on behalf of the incumbent taxi industry and stymieing innovation. No, that's not. Like, okay, guys. Let's put this to rest right now. The people who are mad at Uber and want higher wages are in the majority. You want to know how I know that? I know that because studies have shown that Uber can only retain like less than 10% of their drivers longer than 6 months. So while people might not be complaining, they might not be protesting, they drive for a little while, says this sucks, and then they move on. So the people who are totally happy with Uber and Lyft's payment scale are in the minority. It doesn't mean you're wrong, by the way. You can, if you're happy with what they're paying you, by all means, go ahead and do it. If you want to have an attitude that says, hey, more for me, great. I'm not here to shame you to make you feel bad. That is a personal decision you make, and I'm sure you have your reasons. However, the fact that people are unhappy with the rates is very, very much a nationwide thing. And this whole stymieing innovation, no. We love the innovation. This was a great app. It's still a great app. It is a much better product than any of the taxi services. I'm not here fighting for the taxi industry. The taxi industry, in my opinion, can adapt. They can make their own app. They can create their own network. They can do things to make getting taxis more convenient. I think that's the biggest problem with taxis. Not that they're expensive, but because they're inconvenient to get. I think that has always been their biggest problem. So, and they refuse to adapt. They refuse to do anything. Although, granted, they do have some legislation that prevents them from doing more. Like, just what comes off the top of my head is that with like an Uber and Lyft driver, if like the wrong passenger gets into your car, you can tell them to get out. Taxis, if they drive up for someone that called them, if someone sees that the taxis are well marked, they get into the car, the taxi driver has to take them. Thus, the person who called the taxi, well, they missed their ride. Things like that do need to change. This conflict is playing out in cities everywhere as drivers and lawmakers struggle to define this new form of work enabled by apps. But the struggle is especially acute in Seattle, the first city to pass a law that would allow Uber drivers to unionize if it ever makes it out of lawsuits, delaying its implementations. And it will. It will. In some ways, drivers are on the front lines of a proxy war between Uber and the Teamsters 117, a union in Washington state representing warehouse workers, truck drivers, taxi drivers, and others. No, some people are opposing Uber and Lyft because they want to get paid better, not because they're on the taxi driver side. I mean, they sympathize a little bit more, I'm sure, now that they've gotten a taste of Uber just, stabbing them in the back. But they're not. But yeah, I'm surprised GeekWire would write it like this. In Uber's core is Drive Forward, a group of drivers organized by the company. Drive Forward director Matthew Wald said the protesters are, quote, the same group of disgruntled former taxi drivers who have fought against rideshare in Seattle for years in a statement. The fact that drivers do make a living wage and enjoy the freedom and flexibility to make money on their own terms as independent business owners, Wald said. The claims made by the App-Based Drivers Association are misleading and don't represent the views of the vast majority of rideshare drivers. Again, they kind of are. I mean, yeah, and they're not all protesting, but when you have 95% of your workforce leaving in less than 6 months, consistently, I want to add, I think the views are very much shared by most of the drivers. The driver caravan started in Seattle's Central District and ended at City Hall, where they delivered a set of demands to city officials in a report that found Uber and Lyft have a median take rate of 31% in Seattle based on their analysis of 560 trips. That's up from Uber and Lyft's take rate in previous years. Drive Forward disputes the findings of the report. The drivers were greeted by Seattle City Council members Teresa Mosqueda, Kshama Sawant, Lisa Herbold, and Mike O'Brien outside City Hall. Well, it's nice that they came out to meet them. Shortly after the demonstration, Seattle Council member Kshama Sawant issued a statement in support of the effort. Uber and Lyft executives love to boast about their innovation, but there's nothing new or innovative about exploiting workers. They're basically running sweatshops on wheels, gussied up with fancy slogans and 21st century smartphone apps. It's absolutely shameful. Uber went public May 10th and saw shares dip 7.6% on its first day of trading, and they're still going down last I checked. So, yeah, it's good to start bringing the fight to Congress, to politicians. Again, these are the people who are writing your laws. Now, I just made a video about Pete Buttigieg, as I call him now, and he was a politician who said he supported the drivers, and he supported them getting a fair wage, and then decided to have like a fundraiser with Uber executives. Big conflict of interest right there. So it will be an uphill battle. What you gain by bringing these protests to city halls, to Congress, to the Senate, whatever, what you bring to the table is that you make these politicians aware that this issue is very important to you. And it's going to be important to you when it comes to the elections. Like, and I use the example, say it again, apologies to people who watch both videos, is that you have Elizabeth Warren saying this is not right and actually threatening to break up the big monopolies, the big tech monopolies. And if you are like a million Uber and Lyft drivers out there, and you're looking at the two candidates, you're going to vote for that person who is going to offer you a better wage. Whether they actually give it to you or not is a whole nother topic, I acknowledge. And so Democrats and Republicans would both do well to pay attention to this. And I don't even care whether it's a Democrat or it's a Republican. If it's a Democrat who gets in office and says, hey, we're going to do something so Uber and Lyft doesn't take advantage of anymore, I say, great, bring it on. If a Republican gets into office and says, we're going to do something so that the Uber and Lyft and these rideshare companies can't take advantage of you, I say, great, bring it on. And you let them know by taking it to their doorstep. That is how you figure this out. This is how you let them know that this is important and that they should pay attention to this. However, we're going to leave it there. I've got one more video, and the next video is going to actually be different. I'm going to actually kind of praise Uber for something that they're considering doing, that I hope they do. In the meantime, with this one, what says you? Were you at these strikes? Are you going to participate? Are you going to write to your local congressman? What do you say? I'd love to know. Comments below. Like, favorite, share, subscribe. If you enjoy my videos, consider becoming a Patreon member. It's totally optional, of course, but even as little as $1 a month goes a long way to helping the channel run smoothly, and you get access to my Patreon's exclusive blog. Also, if gas prices are getting you a little down, check out the Get Upside app below. It's free, 100%, but you get cash back on every gas purchase. Check us out at the Apptrepreneur Vlogs channel. And if you want to talk to me or other fellow rideshare members, check us out on Facebook at the Apptrepreneur Hangouts. And as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one.